Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another episode of In Memoriam. Today we come together to celebrate and remember Alan Arkin, who recently left the great stage of life. This one was actually quite upsetting. Who doesn't like Alan Arkin? He seems to have been balding since the 70s. Obviously, such a great character actor. Perhaps never the leading man in films, but always a film is better with Alan Arkin in the role. Obviously I don't have my whole collection to hand. His defining role was perhaps Usarian in Catch-22, and that perhaps is a little bit of his cinematic persona ever since. From Coupe de Ville, where he played the Raspo father, Edward Scissorhands, where he played somebody irascible, Gattaca, where he plays an irascible cop, Wait Until Dark, where he really plays a nasty piece of work, Freebie and the Bean, which is a really underrated 70s buddy cop movie with James Caan. There was just something always likeable about Alan Arkin, even when he was playing villains. Just a wonderful sense of humour, that wry delivery, the unique and exquisite comic timing. I'm just going to show a few of the films of his that I have, but I do actually have quite a lot of his films. I don't have Little Sunshine or Little Miss Sunshine, I've never actually seen it, which is the film that seems to be attached with most of his obituaries. But again, at 89, as they might say in cricketing terms, he had a good innings. And the thing with creative people, they'll never be forgotten, and we can only be thankful of what joy they brought to our lives. Whereas people like me, infinitesimal grains of dust, will be long forgotten within hours of leaving the stage of life. Let's talk about Stand Up Guys. This is an Italian steelbook. This is a lovely little film with Al Pacino, Christopher Walken and Alan Arkin. Al Pacino gets out of prison and meets up with his old pals, Christopher Walken and Alan Arkin. Alan Arkin in this film has a huge talent, shall we say, which pleases a couple of women when Pacino and Walken break him out of an old folks home. It just has a wonderful sense of humour to the film, and Arkin is just absolutely wonderful. He used to be the wheelman for their crew. Obviously Walken and Pacino are wonderful as well. He did direct some films, Fire Sale, which is available in Signal 1 Blu-ray, and Little Murders, which is Indicator, Spine 73. Excuse me. This is an odd little film. It's kind of like Buffet Foire with Gerard Depardieu and Bernard Blier. It's absurdist and surreal. It's quite dark. Obviously, it's 1971, so there's things in it that you couldn't get away with nowadays. It doesn't quite work completely, but it certainly is an invigorating and challenging little piece of work. Starring Elliot Gould. Alan Arkin is in it himself and gives quite a hysterical performance. And then a little film that I wasn't really aware of until I saw it, because that's how things usually work. The In-Laws, I didn't even realise this has been remade with Michael Douglas. This is another wonderful Alan Arkin film, along with Columbo himself, Peter Falk. There's a scene at the dinner table between the two of them, and Peter Falk is just telling all these crazy stories, and Alan Arkin's reactions to those stories are just absolutely priceless and worth the price of admission. Obviously, you've also got the classic Serpentine scene later on in the film. This is an absolute joy and will put a smile on your face. But for me, it's one of my favourite films of all time. The only film I've ever had recorded on a cassette and listened to on my personal stereo on the way to work. It's Glengarry Glen Ross. Now, Arkin has the toughest job of this cast. So obviously you've got Al Pacino doing Al Pacino things, you've got Jack Lemmon as Shelley the Machine Levine, who should have got the Oscar because it's one of his greatest performances. Not that Oscars matter that much. Alec Baldwin in the second greatest cameo of all time, behind Orson Welles. Ed Harris being volatile and explosive. Kevin Spacey being the brunt of all the abuse. And Jonathan Pryce being wet and pathetic. So Alan Arkin's character of George Aronow, he gets the tough job because he's the least showy out of all the characters. He doesn't get big speeches. A lot of the times he is the foil for Ed Harris. That great scene between Ed Harris and Alan Arkin where Ed Harris makes him an accomplice just by listening. But Arkin still makes Aronow a memorable character. You don't forget about Alan Arkin, even though, as I say, it's a pretty thankless role. I'm sure when all the actors looked at Mamet's script, they didn't all go, "Oh, I want to be George Aronow." But Alan Arkin, so often in his career, is that character that you think, "Oh, that's not the most interesting character," but he makes it. He makes the character come to life. I love Coupe de Ville. That really needs a Blu-ray. It's hard to get on DVD. And he's wonderful as the father of the three boisterous brothers who are in charge of bringing a car back, and their misadventures on their way. Arkin is just fantastic in that as well. If I watch that again, I probably will cry like a small child at the end. Alan Arkin, another classic actor. That's the downside of growing old. The people you like, and musicians and actors and directors, they do tend to die, as most of them tend to be older than you are. But again, Alan Arkin will never be forgotten. One of the truly great supporting characters, but just because they're supporting characters doesn't mean they're any less than the stars, because they're usually better than the stars. So this is Saoirse Ronan from Saoirse Ronan Films saying farewell to Alan Arkin. Please leave your favourite Alan Arkin films in the comments below, and hopefully you'll join me again. for more videos.